Another artist we haven't gotten a chance to talk about on this podcast yet, other than is a featured artist on a few albums, is Fred again. Who the last time I remember talking about him was back in July for the Rico Nasty album, of course, and the song "Jungle," which I think both of us thought was a one of the better songs from that. One of the songs that maybe stood out as being unique and uh, as I saw this Fred again album coming out this past weekend, I was like, you know, I at least want to see what this guy's about. And so we checked it out. This is Actual Life 3. It's been kind of his like running theme for his albums in the last 3 years. It's just kind of dropping these 1 year spanning albums called Actual Life 1, 2, and 3. Have you listened to the first two, Dave?
I jumped around a little bit. We actually had talked about Fred again one other time. I think that was the first time I really came aware of him, which would be early 2020 when he produced that Heady One mixtape Gang. He did all those beats, and I was like, oh, this is a guy who's like producer, kind of coming into his own more publicly that way. But then you look under the hood and you're like, oh wait, this guy's been a major like pop producer and songwriter for the last 10 years, working with loads of A-listers. And it's like, oh wow, interesting. Now he's kind of becoming more of a public facing artist in his own right. So was definitely intrigued to check out Fred again solo work here with this Actual Life 3. The first two came out last year, so this is his first big release this year. And I had heard one of his singles leading up to this, which would be Turn on the Lights Again, which is a song he did with Swedish House Mafia featuring Future, because notably that, of course, samples Future's breakout song from a decade ago, Turn on the Lights. And that song, that single is not on Actual Life 3, but it kind of fits that mold, which is this concept of this like heavy sampling nature that Fred is putting into all this music. And I think that's probably what's like the coolest thing to think about with this music is that it's really like targeted specific sampling of like the most random ass shit, like viral TikToks and live covers of songs and all kinds of other stuff. And just the fact that that kind of like approach has been brought into a mainstream house and UK garage release is like pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, definitely cool. And yeah, you mentioned him working with a bunch of people. I mean, Ed Sheeran, probably the biggest name here, but BTS, Stormzy, Eminem has been someone else he's worked with. Swedish House Mafia, like you mentioned, like Rita Ora, George Ezra, Demi
Yeah,
Lovato, like, everybody.
A-list.
So this is a big producer, and I agree. I think there's some interesting moments to this. Definitely like fun to hear like the samples and how he kind of works things in. But I also feel like this a lot of times this felt just like pretty classic house vibe to me. And while I think you can put this on and just like, vibe to it and have a good time, I don't know if there's any like tracks on here that I was like, oh man, this is a classic like EDM song, something I'm gonna come back to a lot. I guess maybe like some of the singles. He had 5 singles from this stand out. Something like Delilah, I thought
Mm,
was pretty strong in the
yeah.
beginning. Danielle a little bit later on I liked too, but overall I kind of found it to be I wouldn't say bad, but like just not super memorable.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you found a couple of things that really stood out to you.
Well, yeah, I didn't love all of it either, but I think some of those songs are quite good. Delilah pulled me out of it. In general, the song names, like you look at the track list and it's a lot of like word parentheses word, like noun percent parentheses phrase. And it's like he's kind of describing the song or describing this sample with then like a vocal tick as the rest of the song name. It's kind of cool because it kind of reminds me of like when music leaks and like the not official song names come out because like that's how it was organized on the computer. So, but like it actually kind of makes sense when you're listening to this given the concept. Yeah, I think Delilah is really cool. Just like the way that pull me out of this vocal line in the sample, the way that like loops itself, of course, while the production itself is looping as you'd expect from house music. I thought that was a lot of fun. I liked Nathan Still Breathing as well, and Ilar Shudders as well has a really cool horn, drop in the middle there. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, yeah, it does kind of come across as what you expect from house music. And I think just the like kind of like audacity to sample like random ass shit in this manner is quite cool. Like he's not even sampling an 070 Shake song; he's sampling the live version of that
Mhm.
song. You know, like it's quite specific. And you know, in reflecting, like you said, he's had a big year, and he's really kind of come on lately as a solo artist. And if you think about like UK DJs, specifically like UK like club DJs, you know, like obviously like Calvin Harris is British and he's gigantic, and like, but like Fred again is like very quickly like trying to follow like Disclosure and like Jamie
Mhm.
XX. Like he's really rising up in terms of like British EDM artists that are crossing over in the United States and just kind of
Yeah.
taking over the scene. So definitely someone to really pay attention to. And even if this is not like the best thing I've ever heard, there's still a lot of like intentionality and like specific touches to this kind of concept that has me quite intrigued for the future. And I would recommend too, check out the YouTube videos, the visualizers of these songs, because it'll often have like the TikTok being sampled if that's one of the songs with a TikTok, and the TikTok will be frozen when it's not actually being sampled. And then when the sample actually comes in on the mix, it'll start playing again in the visualizer. Really nice touch for the YouTube.
That's great. Yeah. You mentioned quite a few songs. I think another one I liked a lot was Clara. That's one of those songs as you think about like the next step for him fame wise is probably going to be being a upper tier EDM act at a festival or the
Hmm.
festival circuit in the next year or so. And I think he already started doing that last year as well. And so you can just see Clara being like one of the closing songs for his set. And yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes because like you mentioned before, he's worked with a lot of people and it's a big variety. I think he's the kind of guy that seems to be like he's going to be uh, have his stir in a lot of different pots going forward. So I'm
Hmm.
excited to see how he moves forward. And I think the exciting thing is like how he's going to move forward with this like very like English like hip hop sphere that he's in,
Hmm.
Stormzy and uh,
Hetty, yeah.
Hetty. And I mean, also he's worked with Burner Boy before, so there's like this like very eclectic perspective he can bring to some people that I think could probably use it, like Ed Sheeran, who we talked about is like been he seems to be a great collaborator with him, which is
Yeah.
great, but like obviously I think could bring a little bit more edge to him. So we'll
Yeah,
see how
for
it
sure.
goes.